What is going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy Sanjit back at it with another video. What the hell just happened today, man? What a crazy situation, man. Let's just get right into this. As you guys know, Jon Gruden has resigned. Jon Gruden is no longer the Raiders coach. At this point, we're going to be looking for a new coach. On the interim, we'll have probably someone between Gus Bradley, or it could be Tom Cable. There's been reports, it could be Rod Marinelli as well. We have three guys on the roster that have head coaching experience. This is a crazy situation, man. I was at the gym when I saw the news, and I knew I had to quickly get home, quickly get my stuff going. What a crazy situation, man. I already see all your guys' comments, and I really want to get into this thoroughly. Really dig down into this and give you guys my thoughts and opinions. Some people have said that Rick Biasca, the special teams coach, will take over as head coach. If that happens, I don't know how I really feel about that. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed. If it has been confirmed, that's definitely interesting, man. I'll look into that, but I don't think it's been 100% confirmed that Rick Biasca is taking over for the Raiders. But what a crazy situation, man. Let me just Google this really quickly, or put it on Twitter. I'm not sure if Rick Biasca is taking over. It looks like it is. So that's very interesting, man. I just saw that Rick Biasca is taking over as the Raiders interim head coach, which means that we now have a special teams coach taking over as head coach. Now, what's going to be the most interesting part is who is going to be the offensive coach, who's going to call the offensive play calls. Now, obviously, we're all going to assume it'll be Greg Olsen. Does that make us better? Does that make us worse? I really want to get into Jon Gruden's legacy and really get into Jon Gruden's, my thoughts and opinions on Jon Gruden, because at this point, it's fair to say that he's failed as a coach. And obviously over, the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see how his draft picks pan out. But outside of Colton Miller, like, things don't look great. And you can say Jonathan Abram, Josh Jacobs, even Darren Waller, right? You can say that's technically a Jon Gruden guy. But it's crazy, man. Now, I will say this, right? There's no excuses for Jon Gruden to say the things he said, right? Like, that should be the first thing to address. I know some people out there will say, he can say whatever he wants or whatever it is. But 10 years ago, which is when those emails happened, I was 18 years old, and I can tell you guys that's not the kind of stuff that you put into an email, because those type of things can bite you. And for Jon Gruden, it did, right? Like, let's face it, Jon Gruden will probably never be a coach again in the NFL, right? And when we've got a super chat, let me just get into this really quickly. Texter Beats said the Raiders are cursed. That's what it feels like, man. It really does. And you know what's crazy is we had Jack Del Rio here before Jon Gruden, and Del Rio was doing a pretty good job, right? Like, he had some good moments, but then obviously we all kind of saw what happened from 2016 to 2017. The team started coming downhill. 2017, our defense was a little bit better, but we got worse as a team. And at the same time, when Jon Gruden took over in 2018, we were excited. I was super excited. I said, hey, man, this guy right here is a good play caller. He knows how to design offenses. He's a good play caller. He's a Super Bowl winner. And let's face it, man, the guy's failed as a coach. Like, there's no excuses at the moment to say that Jon Gruden he succeeded. The only way you can say Jon Gruden succeeded is if guys like Cleveland Farrell and Jonathan Abram become superstar players, or even guys like Damon Arnett, right? Because those are all Jon Gruden guys. Just this morning, I did not think Jon Gruden would have been gone. And honestly, based off of the first set of email that came out and what he said about that NFLPA rep, I don't think he would have been out of the league, like, based off of those comments. It's really what he said about Roger Goodell. It's what he said about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers owner. That's what really got him out of the league. And you know what's crazy is I've already talked to some players, and there's some players that are still defending Jon Gruden, saying that Jon Gruden has kept this team together. So without him, and this is a player that specifically told me this, that without Jon Gruden, he doesn't know what's going to happen with this team, because Jon Gruden was the guy that was keeping this team together. I don't know exactly what that means, right? I don't know if there's other internal issues. I don't know if there's other things going on. But I do know a lot of people came to this team because of Jon Gruden, especially on the offensive side. At the same time, Rick Biasca taking over, I don't know how I feel about that. Personally, I think Gus Bradley should have been the guy. But it is an interim head coach, right? It's not what our coach would be in the long term. I do know Rick Biasca is well respected. No name, thank you for the super chat. Said Biasca is interim head coach is good, to be honest. Let's everyone else focus on their job. Hoping to see heavy focus on passing. Now Gruden is focused on runs. That's a good point. I think the Raiders need to definitely get it turned around, right, on the offense side of the ball. Jon Gruden was not cutting it out. Honestly, this was probably the best thing that could have happened for the Raiders. Like, let's face it, man. Jon Gruden was not getting it done. The offense was very stale. It wasn't where we needed it to be. And with Jon Gruden being out, maybe Greg Olsen can come in and do some things that Jon Gruden wasn't able to do. I don't know how our offense is going to change or evolve like throughout the season. I think a lot of what Jon Gruden has already implemented will probably stick. It's probably what the Raiders will continue doing. But at the end of the day, there's so many things that Jon Gruden did for this team, and I don't know how we replace all of it, man. I really don't. With that being said, man, I see a lot of super chats. If you guys have questions, comments, super chats will always be answered. At the same time, if you guys are members, as is my guy right here, we'll pull the member comments up as they kind of come in. Those are a little bit harder to get to, but as Noor said, Gus should do take over for now. I agree, man. Gus should have been the guy, in my opinion, but I'm okay with Rick Biasca. I think one of the things it does allow for the Raiders is it's going to allow all the coordinators to kind of focus in on their own jobs, right? Tom Cable can focus in on the offensive line. At the same time, Gus Bradley can focus on the defense. Marinelli can focus on the defensive line. Johnny Perez, thank you for the super chat, said, does this also mean the end for Carr? Because a lot of new coaches want their own new quarterback, and I'm pretty sure his contract is up. It could be. Honestly, that's something that, like, I'm not even going to think about at this moment, but that is a good point. Rick Biasca, we'll see what he thinks about Derek Carr. If he doesn't like Derek Carr, when Marcus Mariota comes back, he can make that switch, right? We don't know what these different coaches feel about Derek Carr. The hopes is that with Jon Gruden being gone, that the offense steps up. I think it will, honestly. I think typically when you have a coach and another guy kind of takes over, I think that kind of helps out. And in this situation, I do think that's going to ultimately happen. I think the Raiders will get better on the offense side of the ball. Will it last? I don't know, right? Because what's about to happen is different, right? A new coach, new place that will be called, a new game plan as well, right? I think ultimately we don't make any decisions on Derek Carr this year, honestly, unless he gets hurt or unless he plays terrible and Marcus is healthy. I don't really see anything happening. Thank you for the super chat. Dexter said special teams coordinator will be interim head coach, so other coaches can focus on their positions. Greg Olsen will be a play caller / head coach, offensive coach. Also, 10 years ago was way different. I totally agree, man. Jon Gruden came in and he does good at times, but in my opinion, it's too conservative. We're not taking shots downfield. I would rather get away from the run game. Like, in my opinion, the run game does not matter. And I'm going to give you guys some insight, man. I was talking to some Raiders players, specifically some offensive line. I asked some of them questions. So the Raiders are going to stick with, or at least the plan today was that they were going to stick with Brandon Parker at right tackle. They were going to stick with Alex Leatherwood at right guard and John Simpson at left guard. That was the plan. That's what they were going to stick with. But things are going to be different now, right? Because the reason why we're going to stick with those guys is because that was the best set of run blockers. I don't think the Raiders are going to run as much. I think our strength is not the run game. Our strength is our offensive playmakers in the pass game. Get Derek Carr the ball and shotgun, spread it out. That's the strength of this team, man. The offensive line's not holding up. But I think if you keep that extra tight end in, you kind of chip block a little bit. I think that is ultimately going to give the Raiders the best chance to win. Another thing to keep in mind, how many times did the Bears bring in a sixth offensive lineman? I had nightmares hearing the referee say number 64 is reporting as eligible because I heard it at least 15 times in this past game. That allowed them to pass block a little bit better. It allowed them to run block a little bit better. The Raiders have yet to put a sixth offensive lineman in the game outside of their goal line packages. That's not acceptable, man. If you're Jon Gruden, you have to do more. And I want to see that from as Rick Biasca kind of takes over. I want to see what kind of game plan he runs. I want to see what he does from his perspective to help this team. The Raiders were doing a terrible job at times, right? And Jon Gruden really wasn't making those adjustments. Either way, it's going to be interesting. A lot of people are making these comments of freedom of speech and stuff like that. And I'll be the first to tell you guys, I think people are absolutely free to say and do what they want. But Mark Davis is also free to do what he wants. And if Mark Davis doesn't agree with something, he can go ahead and get rid of you. And obviously, that's kind of what happened in this situation. Also, you guys got to keep in mind, I'm not the type of person to say, being politically correct 100% of the time is the way to go. But 10 years ago, Jon Gruden was a grown-ass man. He should have known better. And that's his mistake for not knowing better. At the end of the day, he was 45, 50 years old. I'm not 100% sure. However old he was, he should have known better. And that's his mistake for not knowing better. We don't know what else was in those emails. I'm sure over time, maybe it'll never leak, but over time it could come out that, hey, Jon Gruden also said this, or this, right? Either way, regardless of that, I think this was a good time to cut ties with Jon Gruden. Because if you guys think about it, were the Raiders really ever going to cut ties with Jon Gruden? Like, just to think about it, would they have ever moved on from Jon Gruden? And if this wasn't the case, if this wasn't the time to move on from Jon Gruden, I don't know when the next time would be, right? I see a couple of super chats coming in, so I want to get into those before they kind of disappear. I think one might have. If it did, I do apologize. I will definitely answer it on my Twitter if it did apologize. Latino Not left a $10 super chat, said most Raiders think to ever happen. Most Raiders think to ever happen. You have to know that every old head in the NFL has uncovered dirty emails and backroom comments, not endorsing or defending, but Gruden obviously targeted. And I do agree with you on that, man. I don't like the fact that Jon Gruden was specifically targeted in this situation. And I don't know who's behind it. And ultimately, we might never know. Like, would you guys be surprised if it was someone within the Raiders organization that was behind this? Would you guys be surprised if it was someone on the Kansas City Chiefs or Rick Biasca or someone, right, that wanted to take over that job? Like, we'll never know who was behind this, but it was clearly a targeted situation. Because I do agree. I think a lot of older head coaches, right? If you go back 25 years, imagine what you can find on Bill Belichick. Because 25 years ago, people thought much different than they do today. So there's a lot out there, right, that you can definitely find. Definitely targeted, but that's still not an excuse. Jon Gruden has to know better. Larry left a $5 super chat, said, I'd like to see what Mayock does without Gruden over him. I definitely agree, man. Jon Gruden or Mike Mayock had a great first draft for the Raiders. Even this past draft, he did a pretty good job. We took guys like Henry Ruggs over CeeDee Lamb, and I will still say that's a mistake. Not saying that Henry Ruggs is a bad football player, but I think CeeDee Lamb is just a better football player. He's a game-changing football player. And the Raiders decided to go with Ruggs over CeeDee Lamb. Even then, in that same draft, we could have taken someone like Kenneth Murray Jr., and we took Damon Arnett. And Damon Arnett is as close to a bust as it gets at the moment. Of course, you can change his trajectory of his career around, but it doesn't look good for Damon Arnett at the moment. Either way, I hope the Raiders stick with Mike Mayock. I really believe that Mike Mayock is the type of GM that can keep a team around for like the next 10 years, right? Like, he can build a solid team. And we've seen that with guys like Nate Hobbs and some other late round finds, right? Max Crosby. I want to see what Jon Gruden can do without Mike Mayock without Jon Gruden, because I think that's going to be that could be a big thing for the Raiders. Daniel left a $5 super chat saying, why not make Gus Bradley the interim head coach or maybe even the head coach for next season? Keep in mind, you guys, Rick Biasca is not the Raiders' future head coach, right? He's the interim head coach, which means that next year could be Gus Bradley, right? Because the last thing I want to happen is that we bring in a head coach and he fires every single one of these guys, because that's a real possibility. Outside of Mike Mayock, I think Mike Mayock's a little bit more safe because he's the GM. He'll ultimately be the guy probably making that decision. It'll be him as well as Mark Davis. But imagine if we go and get a completely different guy that's our head coach, and then he brings in his own system. I'm not opposed to that, but I do like our different assistant coaches, right? Gus Bradley's a great defensive coach. Tom Cable's a great offensive line coach. Rod Marinelli's a great defensive line coach. chances are if we bring in a guy outside of who's in this organization right now, chances are those guys are all going to get fired. So, Gus Bradley could become the head coach next year, right? That's not out of the question. 805 Hunter said, we excel in no huddle hurry up offense. If we just let Carr be free, we can still win. This is a blessing in disguise. I totally agree with you, man. I might not have made my point very clear, but I do think that one of the things with the Raiders is Jon Gruden started 3-0. Great. Things are looking good, right? But we lost the last 2 games. And because we lost the last 2 games, I think Jon Gruden should have been the guy that you could say is on the hot seat. But was he actually on the hot seat? Considering he had, 4 or 5 more years, I don't know if he was on the hot seat, right? But any other coach would have already been fired at this point. And I think this is a great way to cut ties with Jon Gruden. Again, I have a ton of respect for Jon Gruden. Don't ever think that's not the case. I have a ton of respect for Jon Gruden. I think he's a great coach. But ultimately, he made his own decisions, right? He made his own, he decided to keep Paul Guenther too long. He decided not to make that change sooner. And ultimately, that was his career, man. He made the wrong decision. We've seen other coaches in the past. Jack Del Rio made a decision as well in the past when he allowed, was it Todd Downing, the quarterback's coach, to become the offensive coach. Those type of decisions ultimately can get a guy fired. And we saw that with Jack Del Rio when we had a great offense and he decided to change it up from 2016 to 17. And with Jon Gruden sticking with, in my opinion, Paul Guenther too long. Either way, man, our direction of this team's about to completely change. Like, right now, we're at the point where we look at Jon Gruden and we look at what he was building. We saw it. And in my opinion, we're very close to what he wanted to accomplish, right? You look at our playmakers, Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, Josh Jacobs. You look at Alec Ingold and Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, right? You look at like these 7-8 different guys that can make plays. That's what Jon Gruden wants. Jon Gruden wants these type of players. Obviously, it's going to be different now, right? We're not going to be let's run the ball, throw the ball for 3 yards, right? We're not going to do that anymore. We might now say, hey, let's run a crossing pattern or a deep post or a 9 route, down the seam. Let's take those deep shots, right? We're going to be a completely different team, and I think this, it could be a blessing in disguise, as 805 Hunter says. Some people are saying Mariota time, please. Let me know what you guys think, man. Do you guys want Marcus Mariota? Let me know right now in the comments below. With that being said, I wouldn't be opposed to Marcus Mariota, but I just don't think he has shown that he can be healthy. At the same time, I want to see what Jon Gruden Derek Carr can do without Jon Gruden. I want to see Derek Carr be put in the shotgun and let him air things out. I want to see what Greg Olsen can do, right? Because these playmakers that we have on this team are some great playmakers, right? And again, I know Marcus Mariota brings that dual threat ability. Let me extend the play, keep my eyes downfield, and make that extra pass. I know Marcus has that, but you also have to keep in mind he has, he's gotten hurt, and you can't overlook the fact that Marcus Mariota has gotten hurt. Either way, I think the Raiders would be smart to just roll forward with Derek Carr. Let's see what he can do. We don't, at no point do we have to lock in with Derek. At no point do we have to say, here's a 5-year, $40 million per year contract. Derek has to prove himself. And honestly, although he proved it in the first 3 games, in the last 2, it showed. Derek Carr has to have a great offensive line for him to win. And we're not, no team can build a great offensive line and a great defense. It's very hard to do that. Unless the quarterback's willing to take a super cheap contract, it's very hard for a team to build that way. The Raiders aren't there yet, right? Like, our offensive line's a year out until it's at least going to do a good job for Derek Carr. With that being said, we got another super chat. Daniel said, with our playmakers, I'd love to see what Bieniemy can do. He'd be a choice for our next head coach. And I don't know if that's how you say it. I think it's Eric Bieniemy, and I know I'm saying that wrong, but that's the coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people said, I think he's the offensive coach specifically. I'd be open to that, man. Some people are saying that he's a great offense coach and he can do a potentially really good job as the head coach. Some people are saying let's get Jack Del Rio back. I don't think Jack Del Rio would at this point want to come back to the Raiders. I think he'd want to wait a couple of years, right? 4 or 5 years. Plus, he has a good thing going with the Washington football team as well at the moment. I know a lot of people are going to look at this whole Jon Gruden situation and be down about it. But honestly, I think the Raiders will be fine moving forward, man. Jon Gruden has done a good job with building a roster. At the same time, we have some good coaches, we have some good playmakers, and we have some good leadership at the top, right? Guys like Yannick Ngakoue, guys like Derek Carr, right? They're well-respected guys. Rick Biasca is one of those guys that's well-respected as well. At the same time, I'm excited to see what the Raiders do going forward because although I really respected Jon, he just wasn't cutting it. He wasn't getting it done, and I didn't want to be tied to him for 10 years, right? Like that's already way too. We've already had Jon too long, and we kind of saw some of the issues with him, right? He needed 3 years just to get to the point where he's at this season, and I know we won 7 games, and then we won 8 games, and we were 3-0. But we quickly went 3-2. I hope this decision of Jon Gruden no longer being with the Raiders, I hope this lights a fire under all of these players' asses, and I hope they get it together, and I hope the Raiders can win, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's over almost 1,000 of you guys that were watching this video. If you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm going to take a step back, really think about everything. We'll come back tomorrow. I might go live. I will definitely have a video tomorrow morning. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Hit that thumbs up button. Have a great night, and I will see you guys next time with another video.